A young boy gets dressed and leaves his house to buy the most recent version of a popular online game. It's a 5-hour round trip to get it, but he's more concerned with having it and playing the game. He gets off the bus and walks towards his house, passing a young girl along the way. He thinks he recognizes the girl, but isn't sure. When he turns back to confirm, he sees she's about to get hit by a vehicle and runs to push her out of the way. He wakes up. He's dead and in the afterlife. A beautiful goddess approaches him and calls him by name, Sato Kazuma, as she welcomes him to the afterlife. Shocked, Kazuma scans the area and wonders aloud if the woman he saved is still alive. She is, responds Aqua, the goddess, and she adds that she would still be alive even if he hadn't done anything at all. Surprised at this information, he probes further to ask what killed him, and she replies that he died of shock. He didn't even get hit, but thought he did, passed out, peed himself, and ultimately suffered cardiac arrest. Perplexed, he does not envision that this is how his life should have ended. The goddess, on the other hand, can't keep a straight face as she explains all this, and is unable to contain her laughter. She also says that everyone who heard about how he peed himself and died laughed so hard, some of them are still laughing, including relatives. Now that that's out of her system, on to business. Aqua tells Kazuma he has 2 options. He could go straight to heaven and live like an old man, or start all over as a newborn. But before he makes a choice, she offers up a third option of going to a parallel world that's kinda like an MMORPG, where he will battle the enemy threatening the population. He is skeptical about accepting this offer, since he will likely die almost immediately in this new scary world. But she offers to give him one thing, anything he wishes, to carry along with him. As he deliberates on what to bring, Aqua taunts him to hurry up and choose something, saying that picking one thing or another won't make much difference. But he wants to be clever about it. He decides to pick the goddess herself. As soon as the decision is made, another goddess arrives to take over Aqua's responsibilities in the afterlife and sends her into the world with Kazuma. If they can successfully defeat the enemy, the Devil King, they would be free to leave that world. Refusing to accept what's happening, Aqua screams in protest, but the decision is sealed and she needs to follow Kazuma. Upon arrival in the parallel world, they're both disoriented at first. But after a moment of consideration, Kazuma's gamer instincts kick in, and he suggests they find the Adventurer Guild in the city. Amazed at his take-charge attitude, Aqua follows him, as he seems like he might actually be competent and reliable here. When they get to the guild, someone ushers them in, and they move on to register as adventurers. During registration, the clerk scans Kazuma, and his result shows he might be better suited for a merchant role than an adventurer. Aqua's scan, on the other hand, produces an incredible result, and she could be just about anything she wants. She chooses Archpriest. After living like common laborers for a while, Aqua suggests that they go on a kill quest. Even with almost nothing for equipment, Kazuma agrees to this new phase of their adventure. The first foes Kazuma and Aqua face on their first killing quest are giant frogs. One of the frogs starts hopping in Kazuma's direction, and he has to run for his dear life. He begs Aqua to use her super goddess power, but she laughs at him and insists he respectfully ask. As she proudly rants about her status, one of the giant frogs closes in on her and swallows her. With the frog busy consuming Aqua, Kazuma runs to save her and successfully kills it. Aqua feels ashamed of her filthy frog-slimed self. Outraged, she attempts to kill another frog on her own. Again, the frog swallows her, and Kazuma comes in for another slaughter. After this kill, they decide to call it a day. Kazuma is somewhat dismayed at the low-value reward for killing the 2 frogs. Aqua then suggests that they recruit more allies to make their adventuring more productive. The idea sounds good to Kazuma, and they post a recruitment invitation with specific requirements. He's not convinced they'll attract much talent as novices, but she's confident folks will jump at the chance to party with her. And no one seems interested, even with the attractive Aqua and Archpriest as a possible future ally. Just as Kazuma suggests lightening Aqua's requirements on the post, a warrior approaches them and introduces herself as Megumin, an arch-wizard. But after a spectacular introduction, she collapses and begs for food as she hasn't eaten in days. They treat her to a meal and add her to their team. They go out again after more frogs. Megumin prepares her explosive magic for one of the frogs, while the other two face a second. But Aqua insists on facing the frog alone, and, as usual, the frog swallows her. Megumin starts a massive explosion incantation to draw her powers against the frog. When she's done with the whole rigmarole of preparing her magic, the explosion is so enormous and is such an exertion that she loses all her strength. But the good news is that the targeted frog was killed by the explosion. But the battle is far from over, as the explosion had woken up another giant frog, leaving Kazuma to battle the two as he saves his team. He successfully kills both frogs and carries the weak arch-wizard back home. As they journey home, Kazuma suggests they kick Megumin off the team. She can't do any other magic besides that one that makes her uselessly weak afterward. But Megumin blackmails him in front of a crowd, and he's forced into letting her stay on the team. Their first quest is done, and Kazuma is pleased with how much he leveled up for it. He checks the other available quests, but they all seem kind of absurd. However, their recruitment post is still up, and as he's thinking about how difficult life here may prove to be, he hears footsteps approaching and turns to see a knight asking to join their party. The knight introduces herself as Darkness, with the calling of Crusader. Even with a striking introduction, she sounds pathetic, and Kazuma hesitates to let her join. But she's persistent and comes closer, making Kazuma's heart jump. He isn't used to intense interactions with girls. He puts himself together and insists on not allowing her onto their team. He's already got enough trouble with Aqua and Megumin. Kazuma sets out to learn a skill with the points he earned from killing the frogs. Megumin offers to teach him her explosive skills, but he's pretty sure he doesn't have enough points for that, and thinks he can learn something more immediately useful with the points he has. He learns the thief trick, steal, from the knight's friend, and the first thing he steals are her panties. Even though what gets stolen when using the skill is governed by some mechanism of probability, when he tries the skill again, this time in front of more people, he's only able to recover panties again. Ashamed, he tries to calm the situation down, but can't, until Darkness interferes again, with the proposal to join the team to prevent any wrongful acts from Kazuma. When the dust settles, and the three try to figure out if they should take Darkness as a new member, Kazuma has a feeling it won't end well. Even after trying to make the idea of adventuring with them scary, Darkness insists on joining. Before they come to a decision, they hear an announcement for all adventurers to gather in front of the gate. The whole city is in turmoil, and the adventurers stand ready at the gate to protect the city. Confused, Kazuma asks what's coming. What are they up against? But to his surprise, their enemy is flying cabbages. The city experiences a flying cabbage invasion once the cabbage is ripe for harvest, and this was the time to capture as many as possible. Kazuma sinks deeper into confusion, as he was expecting to defend against something like an attack by the Devil King's army, not cabbage. Darkness dashes forward to capture some cabbages to prove herself a worthy team member to Kazuma, but she doesn't hit a single target. After so many attacks with no result, she resorts to standing as a wall of defense to protect the fallen adventurers, felled by the cabbages. The cabbages aggressively attack her, so badly that her armor falls to the ground and her clothes begin tearing. Megumin comes in to end this with her explosive magic, and the whole city applauds them, except Kazuma. The three ladies seem to enjoy their feats, but Kazuma believes they still need to improve their skills. After much pressure from the trio, he reluctantly accepts the knight onto their team. Kazuma has more points to use, and he uses some to buy a skill that enables him to create water. He seems to have it great, but Aqua racked up a bunch of debt, expecting a bigger payout from the last quest, but most of which she harvested were lettuces, not as valuable as cabbages. She approaches Kazuma and asks for a loan after discovering that he made 1,000,000 80s in the cabbage fight. After a lot of persuasion and ultimately blackmail, he succumbs and gives her the money she needs. They all decide to embark on another quest, but everything available seems way beyond their skills. When they ask about what happened to the ordinary level quest, they discover that the captain of the Devil King's army is in a neighboring town. His powerful presence put all the local, weaker opponents in hiding. With no quest to take on, Aqua takes a part-time job selling cabbages. Darkness goes to her family home for weight training, while Megumin and Kazuma start their own little mini-quest. Day after day, Kazuma follows Megumin to train her explosive magic outside the city. The suitable target they find is an abandoned castle in the distance on a hill. This training goes on for days, and Megumin really seems to be developing her skill. Until one day, all the adventurers get summoned to the city's gate. This time, it's not for a cabbage fight, but the leader of the Devil King's army, the Dullahan, has paid a visit. He addresses the whole city. Who has been using explosive magic on my castle? Some people turn to face Megumin, and others look to another wizard. To avoid further confusion on who is responsible, Megumin steps forward and challenges the Dullahan. She's emboldened by the presence of every adventurer in the city behind her. Instead of acknowledging what she has to say, he simply asks that she stop disturbing his peace, but she insists on continuing. Losing patience, he casts a death curse, but Darkness, ever the protector, comes to the rescue and takes the curse in her place. Shocked, the adventurers look on from a distance. None attempt to go near, except Kazuma and Aqua. The Dullahan promises to lift the curse if Megumin can make it to him in the castle, and then he disappears. Darkness appears weakened by the curse, and Megumin is feeling guilty about her actions. She starts her journey to the castle, and Kazuma volunteers to go along with her. But Aqua stops them and effortlessly uses her sacred break spell to lift the curse. Astonished, the whole city raises a celebratory cry and gathers around Aqua to celebrate her huge feat, which she proudly enjoys. Kazuma stares at the sleeping Aqua and wonders how long they will continue their menial jobs without being able to make more money on kill quests. Aqua has similar thoughts as she wakes up and begs the team to go on any quest, no matter how hard, so that they can earn some extra cash. Finally, they find a suitable quest to purify Riverhead Lake. The murky water has attracted monstrous alligators. For the sake of Aqua's safety, they decide to put her in a cage, and then the cage in the lake so she can perform the purification, which is gonna take a while. After many hours and brutal harassment from the alligators, the lake is purified, but she is traumatized. The team tries everything to cheer her up, even telling her she can have all the reward for the quest. After all, she did all of the work. But she insists on remaining locked inside the cage for safety. As they carry her back to the Adventurer Guild, in the cage, a swordsman, Mitsurugi Kiyoya, who Aqua reincarnated and sent to this world, sees her and believes she's in danger. Even after a thorough explanation, he insists on taking Aqua with him and challenges Kazuma to a duel. Almost before Kiyoya even finishes getting out the details of his challenge, Kazuma accepts, dashes towards him, uses his steal technique to take his most prized possession, his sword, and knocks him out with it. His allies appear and try to get his sword back, but they run off when Kazuma threatens to steal something from them. Upon returning to the Adventurer Guild, Aqua discovers she won't be getting the full reward money because of the damage to the cage caused by Kiyoya's rescue attempt. Still fuming, she sees Kiyoya come in, hits him with a heavy blow, and demands he pay for the cage repair. She even inflates the price a bit for a tidy profit. He pays her without hesitation, then turns to Kazuma to plead for his sword. But unfortunately, Kazuma has already sold it. There's an announcement. All adventurers are summoned once again to the city gate, with special attention called to Kazuma's party. Apparently, their neighbor the Dullahan has come to visit them again. The Dullahan rages at the whole city that he's still under daily attack by the wizard girl's explosions. Surprised, Kazuma turns to Megumin, and she doesn't deny it because she's guilty as charged. He remembers she also needs an accomplice to carry her when she's done with her magic, and that happens to be Aqua. The Dullahan introduces himself as Verdia and also inquires as to why they haven't come to lift the curse. Darkness shows herself to be in good health, which he doesn't understand. But before he can finish his thought, Aqua bursts into a fit of laughter at the idea that he's been waiting for them this whole time and they haven't given him a second thought. She then uses her turn undead magic on him, making him even angrier. To teach Aqua a lesson, he summons an undead army to attack her. Scared, Aqua runs for her life and begs Kazuma to do something to save her. He thinks of the best way to save her and asks Megumin to use her explosive magic on the army and Verdia when they get them close to each other. Megumin, pleased with the opportunity, follows his orders and succeeds. But Verdia is still alive. Extremely furious and keen to end them all, he tries until darkness comes in to block his attack. She holds him off for a while, giving Kazuma room to think of how to take him down. He figures out that Verdia's weakness is water and asks the whole city to unleash water on him, but he's able to evade their small attacks. Finally, Aqua summons water from the heavens, she is a water goddess after all, and floods the entire landscape. This further weakens Verdia, and Aqua easily sends him off. The battle is over, and Kazuma isn't expecting any reward, but to his surprise, he and his team are awarded 300 million 80s. But the excitement drains when they are told they will have to pay for damages to the city caused by Aqua's flood, which comes to 340 million. Kazuma is now determined to kill the Devil King at all costs to leave this ridiculous world. Kazuma wakes up to find himself in the afterlife again. He's disoriented at first, not entirely sure of where he is, but it seems vaguely familiar. He remembers suggesting that they go on another quest to make some money. The safest quest they could go for was to kill snow sprites. They all choose suitable clothes for the snowy quest. They arrive, and there are snow sprites flying around all over, and Kazuma is super excited to be killing them so easily. Megumin asks permission to use her explosive magic on the sprites, and Kazuma allows it. Her explosion kills a handful of sprites, and she falls to the ground, as usual, requesting assistance. However, before Kazuma could pick her up, the reason why this quest has been avoided by many adventurers appears: the Winter Shogun. The Winter Shogun strides towards them, and Darkness tries to defend them, only to get her sword cut in two. Aqua devises a means to appease him, releasing all the snow sprites she has locked in jars, and kneels before him to beg forgiveness. She asks the others to do the same, but Darkness is reluctant, until Kazuma forces her. Kazuma is in close proximity to the Winter Shogun, and absent-mindedly still has his sword in his hand. The Winter Shogun, with a swift blow, easily cuts off his head, sending him to the afterlife. Hades, the new goddess in charge of the Afterlife Gate, welcomes Kazuma and sympathizes with him. She had seen how his life played out and offers to reincarnate him back to Japan into a wealthy family with no stress. Upon hearing this, Kazuma gets excited and adds more perks to the offer. But before she can send him to this new life, Aqua interrupts, calling out to Kazuma. She used her recovery magic to summon him back, but needs the permission of the goddess in charge. After threatening Hades with information she knows about her, she reluctantly sends Kazuma back to the parallel world. When Kazuma returns and finds himself in exactly the same predicament with his ragtag team, ever putting them in more debt, he struggles to find words of gratitude for Aqua. Aqua shivers outside the stable, trying to warm herself by a small and struggling fire. She looks for anything to keep the fire burning and finds Kazuma's tracksuit. Before she can burn it up, Kazuma hits her from behind and saves his clothes. She demands that he find them a better place to live before they freeze to death. A better place means more money. More money means more profitable adventures. More profitable adventures means more skills are needed. Kazuma takes Aqua to meet a wizard who will teach him a new skill. To her surprise, the person they encounter is a familiar face. Aqua rushes to apprehend the lady. There seems to be some bad blood between them. The lady, Wheeze, who's also a leech, is one of the leaders of the army of the undead. She was sending some wandering spirits back to heaven one night when Aqua and Kazuma interfered and spared her. Now she's running a store and doing reasonably well for herself, which makes Aqua furious. As they converse, Kazuma asks her to teach him a skill. She teaches him the Drain Touch skill. While acquiring the skill, a strange old man comes in and asks Whis to help him send some spirits away from his mansion. In return, she can live there. Kazuma and his team accept the task instead and go to the mansion. They settle in. Kazuma is glad to have a room and bed to himself, but doesn't know the worst is yet to come. In the middle of the night, he rolls over to get up to use the bathroom when he sees a creepy doll staring at him. Kind of freaked out, he tries to dismiss the thought until his entire bed becomes filled with terrifying dolls. He flees, desperately seeking Aqua's help. After a long battle with the dolls, they finally exorcise them all. The exorcism done, they were only expecting to be able to live there, but find out that there's also a monetary reward. But when they hear the story behind why the spirits inhabited the mansion in the first place, Kazuma realizes that it was initially Aqua's fault. So they reject the cash reward, but now have a decent place to lay their heads. Kazuma takes a stroll through the city and sees two men peeping down an alleyway. Kazuma confronts them, and they tell him about a shop run by succubi, who provide the service of helping male adventurers have great erotic dreams. Excited, Kazuma follows them into the shop and places his order for the kind of dream he wants. The attendant advises that he refrain from alcohol if he doesn't want to upset the quality of his sleep and miss his beautiful dream. When he gets home, he sees the dining room full of delicacies sent by Darkness's parents. Everyone is excited, and they all start enjoying the crab in abundance. Aqua suggests a new way to drink the wine they also received. Somewhat out of character, Kazuma refuses the drink, remembering the warning from earlier on. To avoid further temptation, he bids them goodnight and retires to bed. But he can't sleep because of his excitement about the dream he's about to have. He decides to go for a relaxing bath, and his eyes drift closed. When he opens them, he sees the lantern he lit earlier is out, and a lady stands before him, taking off her clothes. When she finally shows her face, he sees that it's Darkness, but believes his dream has begun. Darkness is too embarrassed to look at Kazuma or be seen by him, and she falls to hide herself. But Kazuma had asked for someone inexperienced and thinks this is part of it. He orders her to wash his back, and Darkness obliges his confident assertiveness. Just when Kazuma is settling in to be able to properly enjoy this, he hears Aqua screaming that an intruder is in the house. Kazuma storms out of the bathroom, furious, to confront Aqua about disturbing his dream. The intruder turns out to be a succubus girl sent to fulfill his dream order. Unfortunately, Aqua's spell restricted her from getting to Kazuma, forcing the realization that his encounter with Darkness was not a dream. He tries to save the young succubus from Aqua's wrath, so she turns to face him instead. While giving Kazuma a bit of a beatdown, the succubus girl escapes. In the morning, Kazuma pretends not to remember anything that happened between him and Darkness, but Darkness catches on that he's merely feigning ignorance. As they discuss it, they're interrupted by an announcement that the Destroyer, a rogue mobile fortress, is on a course toward the city. As the Destroyer approaches, Kazuma sees Aqua with all her belongings, begging that they leave the city if they want to stay alive. Kazuma doesn't understand, as no one's ever explained to him what the Destroyer is. When they finally do explain it to him, he freezes, but summons the courage to stay and fight. All the adventurers gather at the guild hall and try to come up with a plan of attack. After much deliberation, they decide to use the explosive magic of Megumin. But Megumin is uncertain of the potency of her magic against the Great Destroyer. When they are all short of ideas, Whis comes in and offers to help. With Whis, a master arch-wizard on their team, the adventurers are ready to battle. They fortify the city. Megumin, together with Kazuma, is positioned on one of the gate's towers, and Whis with Aqua is on the other, awaiting the Destroyer's arrival. When the Destroyer comes within a good range, Aqua uses her Sacred Break spell to weaken its protection barrier. Then Megumin and Whis simultaneously unleash their explosive magic on the Destroyer, and it crumbles to the ground. When they think they've won, the attacker's programmed system announces the activation of its self-destruct sequence. Upon hearing this, all the adventurers start moving back into the city to protect themselves. Kazuma tries to call darkness back, as she's closest to the destroyer, but the sense of impending danger arouses her all the more. Instead of running away, she moves in to enter the collapsed fortress, causing a stir among the adventurers. When they see darkness bravely moving in on the destroyer, they become inspired to follow suit. Kazuma and his remaining team also follow her in. They find the journal of the long-deceased creator of the destroyer and now understand its power source. Whis wants to use her teleport ability to send the KonoTite away, but she is so low on magic she can't control where it would end up. Kazuma insists that she do it anyway, and he'll assume all responsibility. She does. But even after that, they still face the lingering heat and steam energy being released by the decrepit contraption. And Megumin, using borrowed energy through Kazuma's drain touch, casts her second explosion of the day on the destroyer. The destroyer is gone, and Kazuma thinks back on the not-so-great and even worse experiences he's had so far. As he reminisces, Aqua alerts him about the arrival of knights from the imperial capital. Thinking they've come to give him his prize for destroying the destroyer, he rushes to the guild hall. Unfortunately, the knights have come to apprehend him. After teleportation, the KonoTite self-destructed over the mansion of a statesman. He had assumed all responsibility after all. Thank you for sticking until the end. Subscribe for more videos like this.